Ladies and gentlemen, I have never seen the DNC attack a third party candidate as harshly as they are attacking Jill Stein this time around for 2024. Not only have they released attack ads against Jill Stein, that shows you how much of a threat she actually is. And she also has the majority of the Muslim vote in some of those swing states as well. She's ahead of Kamala Harris in Michigan with the Muslim vote. And I think Arizona's the other one. And I think also Wisconsin. I have to go back and check, but I know it's at least 3 where she's beating Kamala Harris with the Muslim vote. So they know that Jill Stein is a threat to them, but rather than adjust what they are doing and give in to the demands of Muslim voters, they are choosing to try to find every reason to turn you against Jill Stein, the anti-genocide, anti-war candidate who is on the ballot in most of the states that is a left candidate. And one of those people is Lawrence O'Donnell. They even sent Lawrence O'Donnell after Jill Stein. Lawrence O'Donnell, the guy who stood by Ralph Nader as Ralph Nader ran outside of the two-party system. Check this out.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has had enough of Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate for president.
All you do is show up once every 4 years to speak to people who are justifiably pissed off, but you're just showing up once every 4 years to do that. You're not serious. You're not to me, it does not read as authentic. It reads as predatory.
So we've already debunked that on this show at that point in time, that she doesn't show up every 4 years. She's helped local Green races. Howie Hawkins ran in 2020, not Jill Stein. Cornel West was running through the Green Party originally, and then he left the Green Party. So that's how Jill ended up running this time around.
Donald Trump became president of the United States thanks to the Electoral College and Jill Stein. The votes that Jill Stein took from Hillary Clinton in key Electoral College states were enough to help Donald Trump win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump.
Pause. So this is Lawrence O'Donnell basically showing you how he decided to shill out for the cash, because the reality is Lawrence O'Donnell has talked about this before and he knows better. The majority of people that voted for Jill Stein would not have voted for Hillary Clinton. You need to stop talking about third party and independent voters in this such way. Would some of them, maybe if Jill wasn't on the ballot? Yes. The majority, no. I myself, even if Jill Stein wasn't on the ballot, I wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. So I think Lawrence pisses me off because he knows better, because he's talked about this before in the past. He knows better. So Lawrence O'Donnell decided to sell out for an MSNBC check. And now all of a sudden he wants to pretend like he's not aware of how this really happens.
Trump is very grateful to Jill Stein. He says that he likes Jill Stein because she takes 100% of her votes from the Democratic candidate for president. And that's why the Harris for President campaign is now running this ad.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not.
Pause. Imagine if Jill Stein would have produced an ad where she took Kamala Harris' face and morphed Kamala Harris into the face of a man. Can you imagine the type of attack that would have come from the DNC towards Jill Stein for changing Kamala Harris into a man?
Not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Jill Stein, I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
And the Democratic Party is running this ad about Jill Stein.
You can tell a lot about a person by the company they keep. Like Jill Stein. Stein isn't sorry about swinging the 2016 election to Trump. And now she's being helped by MAGA allies and Trump's former lawyer. Longtime Klan leader David Duke endorsed her. And
did everybody see this? The David Duke thing, right? So you see what they're running with? I told you guys before, David Duke is obviously an op, a Democrat op, because he also endorsed Charles Barron when he was running against Hakeem Jeffries. Charles Barron is a Black Panther. Charles Barron was beating Hakeem Jeffries in the polls before that endorsement was announced. He's done this multiple times before. Jill Stein is Jewish. Jesus Christ. And people fall for anything.
Like Trump, she's cozied up to Vladimir Putin. Jill Stein, look at her friends, because a vote for Stein is a vote for Trump.
Look at her friends. Look at her friends, right? So now they're doing the Russian propaganda again. She's friends with Putin. She's not friends with Putin. She's explained this multiple times, but you never see people talk about how Hillary Clinton was sitting at a dinner table with Vladimir Putin. You know what I mean? Like, this is horrible.
These are the very first ads that a Democratic presidential candidate and the Democratic Party have ever targeted at a third-party candidate. For Kamala Harris to win, Jill Stein has to be stopped. And the only people who can stop her now are voters. Her family has already tried. When she told us she was going to run again back in October 2023, we asked her not to, said one of her adult sons in an interview with the New York Times, asking not to be identified by name to avoid any personal or professional repercussions from associating with her.
So now they went after Jill Stein's family, right? Now, haven't we seen this before? They did this to RFK Jr. Don't support RFK Jr., but they did this to him as well. Let's go after the family members and get them to speak out against the candidate. That is a low, low blow. And for some reason, they tend to think that this will change the mind of people. Again, third-party voters already, we're used to the smears. We're used to this type of strategy. We already know what you're going to do before you do it. So this isn't a surprise. You're not going to change our minds. Not to mention, there's quite a bit of people who have already voted for Jill Stein before these ads came out. But the reality is like, they went after the family. Oldest trick in the book. Let's get the family members and show that she has family members that don't support her. So some of you got family members that don't support you. Some of you have family members that don't support who you married, don't support who your friends are, don't support the job that you decided to take, don't support where you live, don't support your hairdo, don't support your clothes, don't support a lot of things about you. That's why I never understand why they think this is a winning strategy. Who gives a fuck? Not everybody is close with their family. Jeez. Boy, I tell you, that is a terrible one.
Jill Stein's children want no public association with their mother. What would it take for you to turn against your 74-year-old mother if she were running for office? That same son of Jill Stein told the New York Times, for her political activities, she does not have the support of the family. But Jill Stein does have the support of Donald Trump, who likes her and publicly supports her. Jill Stein does have the support of Vladimir Putin, and Jill Stein does have the support of some voters who consider Kamala Harris the lesser of two evils on the issue that they care about most, the treatment of Palestinians trying to survive in Gaza. None of those people have probably had the chance to read Bob Woodward's new book, which details how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been doing everything they possibly can every day to get a ceasefire and to get humanitarian supplies to people in Gaza over the objections of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
This is Lawrence O'Donnell doing straight up propaganda for the Democratic Party, and he should be damn well ashamed of himself, considering he told us exactly how the Democratic Party operates and how they feel they don't have to move for you. Lawrence O'Donnell should really be ashamed of himself, because, you know, I still got that video. We're going to run it right after this. We're going to run that video back right after this, okay? Because I still have it. And the thing is this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have not been doing everything that they can. Also, Lawrence O'Donnell, why do you have to sit up here and speak for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Why are you speaking for them? Why can't Kamala Harris speak for herself? How are you doing everything that you can and everything that you could have done if you're still giving the terrorists the weapons? Say it again. How are you doing everything that you could do if you are still giving the terrorists the weapons to kill the kids in Gaza and Lebanon? How are you doing everything that you can? They think Americans are stupid. They think we're dumb. How? Well, you're doing everything that you can when you told the Palestinian American that was vetted by you and your team that they couldn't speak on the stage at the Democratic National Convention, but you let the Israelis speak on the stage? Were they doing everything that they can then when they discriminated against Palestinians? No, they weren't. I would argue they were not.
Who at first refused to allow even an ounce of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Those were Netanyahu's words to Joe Biden, as quoted in Bob Woodward's book, not a drop, not an ounce. Joe Biden.
So look at this. Not a drop, not an ounce. Anything will go into Gaza to help the people. Lawrence O'Donnell thinks that this is helping Kamala Harris, but it's actually hurting Kamala Harris, because this is showing people that, once again, like I told you, they knew ahead of time that Israel was going to starve the Palestinian people. And there has been no food or aid that has entered Gaza since October 1st this year. They are doing it again.
And fought through that resistance and got humanitarian supplies shipped to Gaza. And despite trying every day, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have not been able to get Israel and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire.
And according to the Leahy law, according to the Leahy law, you're not supposed to be supplying weapons to a country that's starving the civilians, that's preventing aid from getting into the civilians. That's the Leahy law. So Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Antony Blinken are all in violation of the Leahy law. But Lawrence O'Donnell won't tell you about that.
Donald Trump is president again. Bibi Netanyahu will decide exactly how much humanitarian assistance gets to Gaza, and Donald Trump won't care. If it's not a drop, not an ounce, Donald Trump will support that choice. Donald Trump will support anything that Bibi Netanyahu wants to do in Gaza or anywhere.
You know what's sad about this? It's like he's pleading to people, you need to vote for the person that's going to genocide your people, the less genocidal. We think this person may be the less genocidal. Most of the damage has happened under the Biden-Harris administration. So now he's trying to tell you, Trump's not going to let any food or anything to go in there. And just, how dare you first of all, how dare you hold that over Arab Americans and Muslim Americans' head? How dare you dangle that over their head and say, well, if you don't support Kamala, Trump's going to starve your people even more. And he totally leaves out they haven't been allowing any food to come in since October 1st again. The propaganda just keeps on coming.
Donald Trump is clearly the worst possible winner of this presidential election for anyone who cares about the safety and future of the Palestinian people. Donald Trump has never pressured the Israeli government to move toward establishing a Palestinian state.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden aren't pressuring them to establish a Palestinian state either. Those are lies.
And so Kamala Harris is not the lesser of two evils on the issue of the future of the Palestinian people in a Palestinian state. Kamala Harris is good on that issue.
This is so sad and pathetic, fam. Sad and pathetic.
But she is not perfect, not even close to perfect for Jill Stein voters. Jill Stein voters are allowing the perfect to be the enemy of the good.
So I guess Lawrence O'Donnell considers perfect as not killing my people, not starving my people, not bombing my people, not genociding my people, not refusing to meet with Palestinian Americans. That's another thing that's been happening. And by the way, her running mate, Tim Walz, if you talk to people in his state too, Palestinian Americans have also said that he's been snubbing them as well. So when you treat people like they're second-class citizens, they don't owe you anything. It's sad, it's pathetic, but it gets worse because it doesn't stop here. Now, the craziest part about this all was that Lawrence O'Donnell told us exactly what the Democratic Party was many years ago. And Lawrence seems to think that we forgot, but we did not.
If you want to pull the party, the major party that is closest to the way you're thinking, to what you're thinking, you must show them that you're capable of not voting for them.
Because the way the Democratic Party is run now for quite a number of presidential cycles is they pick a nominee in a kind of half-assed process that doesn't really represent much of anybody. And then they tell everybody to just shut up. Don't bring up anything that will complicate life for your nominee. You know he's not for you on this. Why badger him? He's not going to be for you for reasons that you don't understand but are good reasons. Shut up. Turn off your brains.
If you don't show them you're capable of not voting for them, they don't have to listen to you. I promise you that. I worked within the Democratic Party. I didn't listen or have to listen to anything on the left while I was working in the Democratic Party because the left had nowhere to go.
So, videos live on. And Lawrence O'Donnell, maybe he doesn't even remember this clip because this was years ago. But this is why you can just easily just laugh at the commentary that he has right now. It's hilarious, but it doesn't stop there, fam, because the DNC also reached out to Tavis Smiley. Listen to this. Check this out, fam. Jill Stein went on the Tavis Smiley radio show. By the way, shout out to Tavis Smiley. I've been on his radio show as well. Tavis Smiley is like, old school journalist. I remember watching Tavis Smiley on BET News when I was a kid. So this isn't someone who just started a podcast one day. Tavis Smiley goes way back in the journalism field. And you also have to know that he was one of the first people to call out Barack Obama and was damn near blacklisted in the industry for doing so. So this is who you're dealing with. And apparently they decided to contact Tavis Smiley and try to tell him what to ask Jill Stein. Listen to this.
And I'm doing this not because I mean to put you on the defensive at the outset of the conversation. I'm doing it because I've already shared with our audience 2 hours ago when I first came on the air today that in the middle of the night last night, I received an email from the DNC. It came from a private email. It did not come from a DNC email as I typically receive. I would not name the person who sent the email, but it came to me from a DNC official. And let me just read what this email says. I'm reaching out from the DNC because it is my understanding that Tavis Smiley will be interviewing Jill Stein this week. I wanted to put a few things of note on your radar screen for it being, of course, the conversation. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. And so there are about 5 or 6 things here that the DNC evidently wants me to ask Jill Stein.
So everybody get this? It was sent to him from a private email. So if I were to assume, it probably came from the DNC chairman, which was Jamie Harrison. I would assume it was probably Jamie Harrison. Telling him what to ask Jill Stein. Why is the DNC trying to tell Black journalists how to run their show? Why is the DNC reaching out to Black journalists and try to tell them what questions to ask? Tavis Smiley has been in this game for years. I told you, I used to watch him when I was a kid. I'm a grown woman. So does the DNC not think that Black journalists are not intelligent enough to come up with their own damn questions to ask a political candidate? And it was interesting because Roland Martin tried to responded to this tweet. Again, nobody was talking to his roly-poly ass, but he responded to my tweet when I shared this clip, because this went kind of viral on Twitter. And he said, this is what all campaigns do. Really? Really? So when Roland Martin interviewed Kamala Harris, did the GOP contact Roland Martin and tell him what questions to ask Kamala Harris? I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure they did not. Anything to run cover for this party.
So in full transparency, these are not my questions to start this conversation. These are from the DNC, and I want to give Dr. Jill Stein a chance to respond to them. And maybe we'll get into some conversation about what it means that the DNC is tracking this thing the way they are to send me questions to ask Dr. Jill Stein. I'll leave that, as my grandmother, Big Mama said, we're going to leave that lay where the good Lord done flung it. I'm going to leave it right where it is, and I'll let you process that for yourself. But these are the things that the Democratic Party wants me to ask of Dr. Jill Stein.
Yeah. So you see what happened there, right? So this goes to show how much they're afraid of Jill Stein. And so Jill calls out something here about the DNC's behavior on Tavis's show.
I just want to know, has anybody tried to control your interview of a presidential candidate or any other candidate before? Is this the first time? Is this routine? Is this like totally exceptional? Is this the DNC just assaulting your right as a journalist for the journalism you want to practice?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, as this is the first time I've ever had anything happen to me like this. I think people know.
Everybody heard that? This is the first time Tavis Smiley has had this happen to him. So, but according to Roland Martin, all campaigns do this, happen all the time. Tavis Smiley has interviewed a number of political candidates. He interviewed Dr. Cornel West on his show as well and asked him about his campaign. So everybody see how people just get caught in a lie?
Who I am, and I'm an independent thinker. As I mentioned earlier, there were 2 other African-American journalists earlier this year who were fired for asking Joe Biden questions that were sent to them by the Democratic Party. But this has never happened to me before in my career.
So it occurs to me, is this just something that the DNC does to black journalists? Are they in the business of telling black journalists what they can and cannot talk about in our elections? What's your thought about that?
I have no idea. The only persons that I'm aware of who have gotten caught up in this happen to be African-American journalists. And obviously, I'm an African-American, in case you didn't know. I'm a black man, proudly, unapologetically. So I don't know who else are getting these kinds of emails. I just know what I just shared.
So there you go. So they reaching out to, you see what I mean? So the thing is, like I said, and where was that, right? So where was that when other candidates came on his show? Why were they only reaching out when Jill Stein came on? Because they know that Jill Stein is a real threat. And that's not Jill Stein's fault. This is the Democratic Party's fault for running a weak candidate.